Hello and welcome to this episode of DEFI's Fireside Chats with Dr. Sue Sentance, Chief Learning Officer at Raspberry Pi Foundation. What is your role at Raspberry Pi Foundation, the Chief Learning Officer? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Hi Genevieve, and nice to be here. Yeah, my role. So it's two parts really. On one hand, I'm sort of a senior advisor for sort of all the teaching and learning, the things that we do at the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and on the other hand, I'm a researcher in computer science education and computing education, and I'm sort of building up the research capacity there. And the Raspberry Pi Foundation, if you don't know, is very much involved with trying to bring computing education to as many young people as possible. We have clubs and competitions and lots of resources for teachers, and we're also involved with the National Centre for Computing Education.
Cool, great. A rather varied hat on that one, isn't it? I like the two sides of it. So from your perspective in school education, as you mentioned, what are the current challenges facing teachers and students in relation to digital education?
Well, in COVID at the moment, many really, and this has really come to the fore through the pandemic. But of course, these things existed already. So if you think about students, so um, huge digital inequality, who has and doesn't have access to technology at home, or space, or um, internet, even internet at all. With there's I can't remember the statistics around. I think it's 1 million households or young people that don't have any access to non mobile data
Mhm.
in their houses. So lots of issues like that. And then of course for teachers are already overworked, busy, have a lot to do, pressures of everything else, and now having to teach online and face to face at the same time.
Mm.
And I think through the last year, it's been really hard for teachers, maybe not in computing. Obviously, my areas, I work a lot with computing teachers, but teachers who are not in computing, who've had to suddenly learn all about, what remote learning looks like and how to use the technology and all the issues around that. So I think there are lots of challenges. And then we also have the non-COVID related challenges like the computing education itself.
Mm.
So we have a newish, it's not new anymore, computing curriculum in England in 2014. It's mandatory up to the age of 16, but it's really broad and it embraces everything from digital literacy all the way over to computer science and programming and things like that. And it's very broad, and we have a huge teacher workforce that has to get their heads around
Mm.
teaching it. So where it's positioned is a challenge. How we position it in across this breadth is a challenge, and then how we help teachers to feel confident in delivering it all the way through primary school as well as secondary
Yeah.
is a challenge. And then there's another challenge that when we get to sort of 14, where young people choose whether they want to carry on in sort of digital areas in computer science or other vocational IT qualifications. um, we have a sort of a bit of a skewed picture of who picks
Yes.
subjects.
Mm.
So we have a sort of gender balance problem, but also um, a little bit of inequity across the board really on that.
Yeah.
There is lots to be done.
Yeah, there is. It's such a broad area, though, isn't it, as well? Because it's not just the technology, it's the relationships that we build online from a teacher's perspective. And then you've got this challenge of these in-class teachers also delivering simultaneously online. And I mean, that's just a huge area that we need to look at in
Yeah.
general, really. Kind of linking onto your second hat of research, what research do you think we need in relation to what your focus is?
Well, I think there's lots of different things. There's going back to what I was just saying, the equity issues.
Mm.
What how do we what do we know about um, what engages young people in sort of, you know, technology related subjects, and, you know, what can we do to ensure that that's more equitable. And obviously at Raspberry Pi, we're leading on this gender balance in computing education project, you know, it's focusing on gender, but actually looking at interventions to see what actually makes a difference. Is it, you know, because I identify with the, you know, I see myself, or is it because I don't think it's relevant? You know, what are the sort of barriers, and what are the factors that do support engagement? Then there's the kind of the discipline itself. I just did some interviews because my research is around programming pedagogy. Did some interviews with teachers around how they're teaching programming. Well, it was around Prim, but what came out of it was how they were teaching programming differently online or socially distanced in the classroom, and again to how they would have been in the old days, you know, when you could more the old days, gosh, COVID era, you know, like
pre-COVID. Yes,
I know when we had pair programming and group work and this sort of thing. So it's really important that, you know, you look at each other's code, and that you don't have to shout across the classroom if you've got an error, if your program won't work and you're feeling like bursting into tears. You know, if your teacher isn't allowed to come anywhere near you, social distance, that's really hard. But at the same time, if you're online, sometimes you can share code and you can actually both be in the same piece of code, and actually that could work quite well. So, and I'm sure that's just in programming, I'm sure in lots of other subjects we're kind of having to rethink that pedagogy,
yes,
you know, around how we approach the teaching of the subject using the technology in the way that it actually adds value, but being aware of the ways in which actually we do need human communication. We don't need to be shouting at each other across the classroom. And, you know, how which are the bits we really need the face-to-face for. And I think we need a lot of research around that. But one of the things that's come up, and where we're interested in researching in Raspberry Pis, because everybody's working online, there's actually quite a lot of data generated. So, you know, you can actually, we working with the Oak National Academy on sort of videoed lessons. We have the Isaac Computer Science platform. You know, a lot of the data there can help you really understand misconceptions and what students don't understand. We're doing some work with Cambridge University. How we interpret free text answers to sort of complex A-level computer science questions. What can we understand from what students type in about what they don't understand? You know, what the stages of learning are. So I think there's loads we can still investigate.
That's really fascinating. And one of the things, I suppose, with computing as a subject, there is always this element of technology and the human in there. So they might require those much more than, say, other digital subjects, where you can probably translate some of the research coming out of Isaac computing into another subject as well, which is quite fascinating. So what can DEFI do in order to help all of this?
Well, I think you're doing, you know, it's really exciting what you've got planned. I like the fact that you're looking at sort of partnering, you know, with different organizations, so that, you know, so that you bring in some thinking with from different perspectives. I think you have the opportunity to look at things from different lenses. You know, my lens is quite specific. Do you know what I mean? Because I think about computing as a subject, whereas others might come in to the institute, you know, looking at things with their own particular lens. I think that's really important. I think you can hopefully, you know, unpick the issues around, you know, what are we best using technology for? You know, let's not just use technology just because it's whizzy and new and just for technology's sake. What are the affordances of using technologies in education where it actually adds value? Hopefully within DEFI, you're also looking at AI, new technologies, data science, machine learning, you know, advances in cybersecurity, and where we, I don't know, support young people in understanding these areas and all the ethical dilemmas that those throw up.
That
Actually,
is brilliant. And actually, I think that's the best way to end. It is important that we talk about computing education and other school-related digital education platforms. So that I think I just want to thank Dr. Sue Sentance for her time, and thank you very much.
thank you.
You're welcome.